about that. I think also one of the things that we realized during COVID, we had a few remote employees, but when everyone went remote, the remote employees that were there before said things have gotten so much better. And so when we asked, well, what is that? And, it was things like documentation, follow-up, all of that stuff, because when you're in an office and you can just yell down the hallway to someone, that doesn't get recorded somewhere and somebody's left out of the loop. So we want to make sure that, all of our practices help with that documentation, collaboration. I think it's driven a lot of positive for us to have a lot of remote folks, and we have hybrid now with Office. And so we use tools like Slack and Zoom and Confluence. There's Monday.com. There's a host of other ones. Even sometimes in those tools you can get siloed. And so, how are we using this tool? What are the pros and cons? How do we optimize? How do we make sure that tools are syncing in a way that are helping? I think it will just continue to flow in that direction.
Hello everyone, this is Larry and welcome to another episode of my podcast. Today we're here with Patrick Flanagan, the COO of Administrate, a company at the forefront of educational technology and operations. And prior to his current role, Patrick spent 8 impactful years at the CMO, the commercial officer, to then transition to his current position as the COO. So this is a huge move from driving sales to managing the operations side of things. And that's what really calls my attention and makes me super excited because it shows how dynamic leadership in the tech world is. So hello, Patrick, welcome. Thanks for joining us today. And how are you doing? How is everything going?
Yeah, thanks for having me on. Things are going really well. Yeah, it's great to be here.
Great. So Patrick, just to get things going on, I would like to hear from you about that pivotal moment where you shifted in your career from moving from the CMO to the COO. How was that from the overall of operational responsibilities? What were the most significant challenges that you faced in that time?
Sure, yeah. I think, as I look back, it was a bit of an organic shift over time, and it had to do with our growth. So I've been at Administrate for about 9.5 years. And so we really got to a point where the CEO, John Peebles, and I were having a discussion on what does this look like going forward? How can we make this work well? I'd always kind of come up the customer success and sales side of things in business. He was more on the tech leadership, but we've grown into a company that has a really solid layer of management beneath us, so strong VPs. So we were kind of looking at growth, who owns kind of external facet of growth, who owns internal facet of growth, and kind of natural fit was really for John to take a lot of the external focus, and I'd focus more on the internal, but more across all of the operation.
Great. And so I guess you had like an overall, like by that time, given that nature of changes, you already had a great like vision of the whole company, how everything was moving. And for you, the transition was kind of, okay, this is a new role, but I already know what's going on within the company. So I guess that made it a little smoother, or was not the case?
Yeah. No, I think that's largely correct. I think the other piece is just, every time you go through a shift in your company, it's kind of maybe looking at where are the needs, what's driving the shift, that sort of thing. And so we're really moving into kind of a scale shift as our growth focus as a company. And so we really wanted to make sure that all departments were aligned around that growth and supporting that scale. And so this has helped with some of that.
Sweet. Great. And so that leads me to the following question I have on my mind, which is how do you see like that role of technology evolving in the professional training and development sectors where you are? So just to hear from you your thoughts.
Yeah. Yeah, it's been interesting being fully in this industry for about 10 years and then prior to observing it from kind of a sideways view. But I think, the shifts we've seen, a lot of technology came out, 20 years ago in the e-learning space. And so we see a lot of saturation of technology in that space. I think there's a lot of innovation going on in that space. So content generation, AI recommendations for content, that sort of thing. There's a little more of a, what's the next level of learner experience kind of on that. I think, where we really focus is kind of on the back end administration of training. And we think there's a lot of workflow automation that can happen on the back end. So that's our core focus. You all the time see some really cool kind of ed tech tools that are out there too, and we want to make sure that we can be a plug-in point for those
Excellent.
as well.
And you mentioned one keyword there, which is AI. I guess that's massive in your days. Like, I guess you are like focusing a lot on that and trying to incorporate as much as possible to have that as part of that pipeline. So
yeah, I won't claim to be a techie, but where I can definitely see that, when we see it in our space is allowing a lot of optimization and workflow and maybe recommendations for, like, we use it in our scheduling feature. But I think one of the things that this is quickly driving across the space is to make sure the data structures are correct, the data is where it needs to be, because the AI is only as good as the data it can crawl. So we see a lot of shift in that, and we're trying to help folks organize that and make it that much better when AI comes along and is able to help all facets.
That makes total sense. And that also gives me space for the next question I had on my list, which is like, because you touched also on people and how to organize like and make that cohesive. Like, I mean, you have to structure the data, but people is also behind that data structuring, and like we all know that working as teams is way better than just having individuals. So what are like those strategies, like more from your COO position right now? What are for you like those strategies, or what do you find the most effective for maintaining that team cohesion and performance when scaling, when using AI, when improving pipelines?
Sure. Yeah, it's a great question. I think, what we try to do at Administrate is, people are number one. So anytime I'm running a meeting, with our senior leadership, anything like that, people go first. When we're checking in and doing a huddle, it's people first. So I do that intentionally to make sure our focus is there. But I think, we also do a lot of things like making sure that our teams aren't too big, where there's communication overhead challenges, but having enough people to support what needs to happen in those teams, and then giving folks the tools they need to, have asynchronous meetings or maintain efficiency in having those meetings. We have a couple offices, but we have a lot of remote folks too. And so you need to strike that balance and make sure that those tools are there to enhance the relationship and collaboration among your people.
Great. I love when I hear like people first, because at the end, like, I mean, these days with remote and being like all around the globe, it's slightly different than it used to be, where everyone was at the same place, maybe talking to each other like one next to the other. But these days you have most of the time a screen between, and for me it's also super important, like people connections and like being able to actually position people first, which is what drives everything. That's huge, and I really like that. So also it brings challenges for sure. So I guess you are trying to use tools and technology for driving those learnings, those educational side of things, even within your team, to a better place, right? Like you don't want just to have, I guess, a tool or a pipeline or something orchestrated or organized, but forgetting about that important piece, which is people. So I don't know
Yeah.
if you have any immersion technology or something that you see super impactful when managing or coordinating and making people's effort perform better. And how do you see that also for the future? Like everything is changing day to day. So from your position, and education is also part of the changes. So any advice or anything you see for the future in the landscape?
Yeah, potentially. Let me think about that. I think also one of the things that we realized during COVID, we had a few remote employees, but when everyone went remote, the remote employees that were there before said things have gotten so much better. And so when we asked, well, what is that? And it was things like documentation, follow up, all of that stuff. Because when you're in an office and you can just yell down the hallway to someone, that doesn't get recorded somewhere and somebody's left out of the loop. So we want to make sure that all of our practices help with that documentation, collaboration. I think it's driven a lot of
Mhm.
positive for us to have a lot of remote folks, and we have hybrid now with office. And so I think you know we use tools like Slack and Zoom and Confluence, there's Monday.com. There's a host of other ones. Even sometimes in those tools you can get siloed, and so you know how are we using this tool? What are the pros and cons? How do we optimize? How do we make sure that tools are syncing in a way that are helping? I think it will just continue to flow in that
So
direction.
what I hear is that you are also being proactively checking on what's the new tool that you can incorporate on your company to make that a good use of it and like, get the
Yeah.
best out of that.
Yeah, I came across actually this book I'm reading called The
Hmm.
Friction Project, and in there there's this concept of, as humans we tend to add things to
Hmm.
fix, and what you often need to do is take away
That's
to
so true.
fix. And so what I've noticed, yeah, what I've noticed is we do that as a company too. We add a
Hmm.
tool, add a tool, add a tool, and so I just, as COO, did this project in the fall where I just looked at every tool we were using and just looked, why do we have 4 BI tools? Why do we have multiple project management tools? How could we consolidate a little here, and learn from others across departments? Like, why do you use this versus this tool? And so we're not through that project, but it's driven a lot of really good discussion and
Hmm.
conversation.
Yeah, sometimes less is more. That's like a common sentence, but it's
Absolutely.
so true. Yeah, absolutely. And it happens at
Yeah.
all levels.
Yeah.
So also let me go into, probably like this is the one question that I ask everyone, which is regarding the work-life balance, and it's similar to what you were just saying but more in the personal side. So do you have like any
Hmm.
personal routines, habits, practices, anything that you do for maintaining your work-life balance? I mean, it's super important not just do the work but also make some fun of the time. Like days are short, we have so many things to do on our plates every day, so finding that balance is for me super important. Anything in particular you do for that?
Sure. Yeah. So first of all, as a company, we work a 4-day week. So our fifth day is meant to be, it's paid for, but it's meant to be
Mhm.
invested back into the employee, and we take that very seriously. So we as executives also try to maintain that. Sometimes we have the occasional meeting, that sort of thing, but so that definitely helps. I think the on the personal side, I run every day after work. And that's something that I haven't had in place too long, but that, I have very busy days. And so that's a stress reliever, and it also energizes me for the evening. Helps also with that transition of, going home and not
Yeah,
bringing work into the
absolutely.
evening
I
too much.
mean, it kind of breaks the loop and refreshes your mind. Then it's like another day, but within the same day.
Yeah.
That's true. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm addicted to it now. I
I
have to
love
do
to
it.
hear that. Do you see like these
Yeah.
medals over there? Those are running medals too. So
Yeah.
I do the same thing as you.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay. You're probably way
I don't know
better
that.
at it than I
Are
am.
you preparing any race in the next month or so?
No, I haven't gotten that official about it. So it's more of like a personal
Okay.
thing right now, but maybe I'll, I'll look into that at some
Sweet,
point.
sweet, Patrick. That's great. So, I mean, we are coming up to an
Yeah.
end. So I wanted like to
Okay.
appreciate you for this time, for all your insight, for sharing like your experience, telling us a little bit about the company, how you are doing these days. And so, before we wrap up, is there anything you'd like to promote or share with the audience? Something you want to, I don't know, make an announcement, whatever that is.
Yeah, sure. It was great to meet you at ATD
Mhm.
Technology. I think that was a really good spot for, minds to meld on learning and training and development. And we're just really seeing a big shift in this kind of workflow automation, as it pertains to training. And a lot of data is really coming out. And so you're able to do rich learning analytics. And that's kind of where we play at Administrate. And yeah, we love having a conversation around anything that has to do with learning and development or training.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Patrick, and thanks for the time.
Yeah.
Bye bye.
Yeah, sounds good. All right.